When I started my real estate journey 21 years ago, I had about $5,000 to my name, didn't have much, and we grew a company. We grew a real estate business. We were wholesaling houses. We were making six figures. It was great money until 2008. The great financial crisis happened and we lost everything. We lost it all. And from that point until today, we rebuilt a real estate company that is now doing almost $100 million a year. So what I want to do is I want to walk you through the 21 years of lessons that I learned about real estate so that you can apply them to your business and your life so that you don't make these same mistakes. How I got into buying real estate, rental property specifically, was I was really just looking to, hey, how much can I cash flow? This was the big thing. I wanted this mailbox money. So the first thing that I wish somebody would have told me was, Spencer, you need to pay attention to your buy box because not all properties are created equal. I bought a package of houses, my first houses, package of 10 houses. They were too old. They were too run down. There were people not paying rent. I didn't even have all the leases, didn't have all the security deposit. It was a nightmare. Now, I'm not saying everybody will do that. However, what I see, mistakes that I see investors make, at the very beginning, they don't really have a clear understanding of what they're buying. And so a buy box is really a defined criteria of the type of house that you're going to put in your portfolio. And this is what the pros do very, very well. These are big funds. They do this very well. They define what they're buying because they know over time it's going to give them the return that they want. And so maybe they say, we want a house that's built 1960 and newer. We want nothing less than a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. We don't want any 1-baths. We don't want any 2-bedroom houses. We don't want pools at our houses. Got a big X there. No pools at the house. Maybe they want to have quarter-acre lot. They don't want a big lot that a resident is going to have to cut, mow, all this stuff. So they keep it pretty simple. They have a really good understanding of the property. And then what that does is it leads them to an area of the country that has a supply of those types of properties, whatever it is, whatever they're looking for. This is what I wish somebody would have told me 21 years ago. Spencer, get very, very clear on your buy box, understand this very well. And then what you do is, success is not what you say yes to, it's everything you say no to. And so saying yes to the correct buy box is the first thing I wish I would have learned. When I first started buying real estate here in my city, I was really just kind of going off what I knew about the market, and I wasn't intent on learning from people who were experts in the market. So I will tell you, what I wish somebody would have told me, I wish they would have told me, Spencer, sit down with a local property manager and understand where you're buying. Now, I know that since I started my journey 21 years ago, there's been a rise of out-of-state investing, and I get it because I see there are some markets that aren't going to perform, and so people flock to markets where you can still find great deals. And what I've noticed, though, is people are not, even today, the crazy thing is people are not taking the time to sit down with a property manager and say, tell me about the market. Tell me about the areas that I should and shouldn't buy in. If you have an ideal client, where are they buying houses? Where is the favorite portfolio that you manage? Where is that portfolio in your city? This one simple act of calling 1 or 2 property managers in a city you want to invest in could change your investment strategy. I believe this. And so I just remember sitting across the table, and there was a couple of guys from Nevada, Reno, Nevada. They had $800,000. And they said, Spencer, we're going to invest in Birmingham. And they slid a piece of paper across the table to me, to Matthew, and it had all of these addresses. I just remember all these addresses. And they said, would you look at these properties because we're ready to buy this portfolio. And there was a turnkey provider in town that was selling this portfolio. So we went by and we said, don't buy that one. Don't buy that one. This one's going to be a nightmare. That's going to be horrible. That's going to be horrible. And at the end of this meeting, we told them, gentlemen, it would be better for you if you just got on a plane and took your $800,000 and went back to Reno, Nevada and kind of started all over. Don't buy these properties. Find somebody else who's selling some, maybe in this city, maybe in a different city. Do not buy these. They actually took their money. They did not buy a single property, and they went and started over. This is a huge mistake I see people make, and I wish, like, from the very get-go, somebody would have taught me that. Hey, sit down with a property manager and walk through it. Now I'm in that position. I'm able to sit down and talk with real estate investors and show them where they should buy and where they shouldn't buy. This is a huge step that every investor needs to make. This literally can save you tens and hundreds of thousands of dollars in the long run if you just take this simple step. In my 21 years of this business, I have seen it all, and I can promise you there's one thing I know, one thing I've learned that I'm going to pass on to you today. So even if you're brand new, you can learn this and not make this mistake. I know that of all the people selling real estate out there, this could be agents, wholesalers, turnkey providers, whoever. I just know that they're in the business to sell property. They're in the business to sell property. That's it. And so what I want to tell you is you must be skeptical. Be skeptical of everything somebody sends you. Never look at anything and just take it for face value. What you need to do, here you are, you need to get your eyeballs on that house some way. That's it. You need to see that house. You need to look at that property. You need to walk that property. I was just looking at a house the other day. Somebody said, hey, this could be a great deal for you. We know you're buying a house. And I was like, yeah, I want a house really bad. And so went out there and looked at it and was walking around the house. I was like, man, this house is kind of funky a little bit. There's something wrong with it. And then walked in one of the rooms. The ceilings were like they were probably 6.5 feet. And I'm thinking, why in the world would I want to buy this piece of junk? But I can promise you, there's plenty of people out there, don't be one of them. There's plenty of people out there that will open up, they'll look at it on a piece of paper, they'll pull up the spreadsheet, they'll look at the spreadsheet and they'll go, oh, this makes sense on paper. It'll be a nightmare. You'll lose thousands of dollars if you buy houses like that. No great resident wants to live in that house. Your ability to resell that property is going to greatly diminish. Like as soon as you buy it, who are you going to sell it to? It becomes a complete nightmare. So I just want to encourage you. 21 years ago, I wish somebody had told me, be skeptical, Spencer. Don't think that everybody has your best interest at heart. Like go out there, look at these properties, take an expert with you, take a property manager who doesn't have a vested interest in any of this, have them look at it, but just be skeptical. Just like look at the spreadsheets and take the spreadsheets for what they are. I saw one the other day where a turnkey provider sent one. They had all these numbers on it and they had appreciation like going through the roof over the next 10 years. And I said, I know this area. There's just no way that it's going to appreciate like that. Zero chance. Had I bought that thinking that, oh, look at this incredible appreciation I'm going to get, I would have lost. Be skeptical. Do your own homework. Don't just trust anybody trying to sell you a property. When I started my real estate career, it was with a franchise. And so they literally gave us software that we could go through to plug in all the numbers and kind of get a rough estimate of what the repairs were. And it was pretty archaic, of course, back then. However, I wish, like I was plugging in those numbers and then I would literally go to houses and eyeball things. I would eyeball things and say, yeah, that's going to be about $20,000 of work. Yeah, it's going to be about $30,000 of work. And that's okay if you're wholesaling. If you're wholesaling and you think, oh, I'm just going to flip this contract because you really don't have any skin in the game. However, if you start to buy real estate for yourself, start building a portfolio, I want to tell you, one of the big things you have to do is you have to get a formal inspection. Like this is going to be so key to you finding success. So I want to tell you kind of what I would do if I were you. I would put something, put it under contract first. Then I would go and send an inspector out, and I would want this person to go and give you a, 15-page report, however big it is. They will look at every single thing. And then if you can do it, I would also have a contractor go look at it. Now, this means you may tie the house up. You may want to say, hey, I'll close in 2 weeks. It just kind of depends on the market, how much demand there is. But I think in today's market, you could probably say I'm going to close in 2 weeks. Gives you that time to get that inspection done, get that contractor out there. I literally just did this the other day. I went out to a house. I eyeballed the whole house. I was with the person selling it to me. I trust this person. He was telling me everything that was wrong with the house. I was like, great, I can see what's wrong with it. I still wanted a pro contractor to go out there and to tell me, this is how much it's going to cost you, Spencer. This is it. Don't shortcut that just because you think, if I don't close in 3 days, 5 days, whatever, then I'm going to lose the deal. Say goodbye to that deal. Bye-bye. Lose it. It doesn't matter. Let it go. You get this contractor out there. This person that I had go out there and look at the house, he did up a renovation estimate, and he came back actually lower than what I thought. And he gave me some insight onto what we could do to change some things in the house and make it more desirable. And so I thought it was great. Like he gave me ideas I didn't have, and I thought, oh, this is perfect. Yes, this house makes sense. I didn't do that at the beginning, and I don't want you to skip this step, because if you skip this step, especially if you're buying something out of state, you will get burned. I promise you. It will just be a matter of time. You may get lucky on 1 or 2, but you will get burned. So do not skip this formal inspection. Not only by an inspector, I think that's great, but also by a contractor. The two of them, if you can get alignment with the two of them, and it still works for you and the numbers work, then that's going to be a good deal. One of the biggest mistakes I made early on, and I've also seen hundreds of other real estate investors make this same mistake, is buying a property that's fully occupied, which there's nothing wrong with that. However, when you don't have any documentation, document everything. And so what do I mean by this? I mean, you need a copy of the lease. You need security deposit. You need keys. And don't skip this. This is probably the most important point. You need an inspection. Now, what some sellers will tell you is, I don't want to disturb the resident. I don't want to disturb the resident. We can't get an inspection. You can't go. I just want to tell you, there's too many deals out there. Even in this tight market and tough market, there's too many deals for you to buy a house, tenant occupied, resident occupied, sight unseen. Don't do it. It'll end up biting you in the butt. I know an investor who did this, made the mistake. I told him not to do it. He did it anyway, and it wasn't 2 months after he bought this property that the resident moved out. They were on a month-to-month lease. They moved out. He went in there. The house was in shambles. Automatically, immediately, he has a massive rehab. And not only does he have a massive rehab, but he has plus $0 coming in. $0 coming in. If you have big rehab, no dollars coming in, and you were thinking for the next 12 months, I'm probably going to have $1,000, $2,000 every month coming in rent. Yeah, I may have some deferred maintenance, but that I'll take care of that little by little. Maybe I can go in there and fix things little by little. Oh no. I see this happen all the time. I wish somebody would have told me that, because I bought houses. I didn't go inside of them. I had residents in there, moved out, all nightmares. So document everything. Make sure you have all the document, not just these things, the lease, security deposit, keys, but make sure you do this inspection. Make sure you know what you're getting into before you buy it, because this is a big mistake that I see people make, and it usually does not end well for them. There are a lot of real estate investors that today are in big trouble. And the trouble that they're in is that they really only have one way to get out of a property. They bought this property, they bought it for a rental or whatever, and now they need to sell it for whatever reason, and they have no options but to sell it as a rental property or let it go vacant and then try to maybe sell it on the market, but they're buying in these areas that's not going to work. And so what you need to understand is before you buy a property, you should have multiple exit strategies. So I don't want you to go into a real estate deal and just think, oh, well, this is a rental house and that's it. When you are looking at a property, when you're out buying a house, you should be thinking at all times, what are the different angles? What are the things that I can do with this property? And so there could be several. Let's look at some of them. Okay, maybe you could you wholesale it? Could you wholesale it? I don't know. I would look at that. Can I wholesale it? Can I do owner finance? Also known as slow flip. And owner finance is essentially you buy a house, you don't do too much to it, and you sell it to somebody, you hold the note, and they're paying you monthly plus interest, and they're taking care of all the repairs and everything. Like, you're not even the landlord, you're just the bank. Could you owner finance it? Maybe you could rent it, right, to a regular person, as a regular rental. Maybe you could do a rent to own. What about, could you flip the house? Another one that a lot of people don't think of, but it's worked for me and it works for a lot of people. It's called wholetailing. I think this is how you spell it. Wholetailing. It's a mix between wholesaling and retailing. You maybe fix up a little bit of the house, but then still sell it with some equity in it so other people can fix it up and have that equity in it themselves. So look at this. Here's 6 different strategies. What I see people making mistakes, and what I made mistakes back many years ago, was just going in narrowly focused, one exit strategy. This is all I can do. And so today, I'm hearing of real estate investors who are selling at losses because they didn't think this through. And this is their only option. Their only option is to sell it to another investor who is never going to pay what they paid for it. This other investor doesn't care how much rehab they put into it. They just don't even care. This is their number. And here's what the investor has in it. And so today there's this huge gap, and I'm seeing this happen over and over and over and over again. Real estate investors losing money because they didn't think of multiple exit strategies before they bought the property. So this is a big one. Make sure you have multiple exit strategies. There was one time I had a fantastic resident. This person was great. I really enjoyed this guy. He was very nice. He took care of my property, and I was just like a big fan of his. I was like, yes, really like this guy. I actually bought it. He was already occupying the property, but it was a good house and it was in good shape, and he actually kept it in good shape. And so this was really a win, and it was in a good area, good pocket area. However, I made this mistake, and I don't want you to make it too. You're thinking, well, Spencer, you just said everything was great. It was great until he moved out. And so the mistake I don't want you to make is I don't want you to ever buy a 2-bedroom house. Now, I'm not talking about multifamily. I understand big multifamily. 2 bedrooms are pretty normal. You have 1 bedroom, you have studio, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom. That's fine. I'm not talking about multifamily. I'm talking about single family residential. 2-bedroom houses, there's a problem. And the problem is people don't really want them all that much. And mostly if you get them, they could be people that either don't have a family or aren't planning on growing a family. And so anybody who rents a 2-bedroom, probably over time looking for a 3-bedroom. They want more room. They want more space. And so what happened to me was when this great resident moved out, who I really enjoyed him, hated to see him leave, it was very difficult for me to find somebody else to put in that property. Even though it was in a great area, even though it was on a great street, very difficult because there were too many 3-bedroom options for just a little more money out there. And so what did I do with my 2-bedroom? I had to lower the price. And when I lowered the price, that just means my return changed. Everything changed. It was vacant for longer. I didn't make as much money. And then when I really wanted to sell the house, guess what? There's not as much demand for a 2-bedroom house. Even if you were going to flip a house, 2-bedroom houses are not really desirable. And so stay away from 2-bedroom houses. Just again, this kind of goes back to point number 1, your buy box. I gave you my buy box. That's why it's always 3-bedroom, because I made this mistake. I had this 2-bedroom and I had another 2-bedroom in a different part of the city that was a disaster. So don't buy 2-bedroom houses. Save up, get the 3-bedroom. You're going to have a lot more opportunity to earn better return on your money with a 3-bedroom property. Have you ever rented an Airbnb property and everything looked awesome on the website, VRBO, Airbnb, whatever, and then you get there and you're like, wow, this place was not what I was expecting, not as good as I was expecting. I didn't know that I didn't know there were train tracks like less than a block away. I didn't know that it was on a busy street, whatever the case is. This is a problem that I see a lot of people make. They do not account for white elephants. Now you may say, well, Spencer, what in the world's a white elephant? I'm going to draw an elephant. That's actually not too bad. I think that's okay. And it's white. This is a big white elephant. Now, the issue with white elephants, you can't, if you walked up to a property, saw a white elephant, guess what? You can't ignore it. It's there. You would stare at it. You'd be like, what in the world is this thing? And then what would happen is you'd be like, well, can we get rid of it? And you'd be like, no, you can't move a white elephant. It's too big. It's just going to sit there and you can't do anything about it. So white elephants are what I call defects at a property. And it's not really a defect with the property, that result in a discount. Now this is the truth. If you go up and you have a house that is next to train tracks, you buy that house, guess what? You're going to have to discount that house. You're going to have to discount it when you sell it, the price. You're going to have to discount it when you rent it, because nobody wants to rent anything near a railroad tracks. What else? Well, if you're on the steep driveway, you're like this, nobody wants to rent that. And so that's also a white elephant. Well, what about power lines? Nobody wants to be around these huge power lines that go down this road right by your house. Nobody wants to do that. Think of all the things. As you look around the property, you should be thinking, is there anything that would keep somebody from really wanting to rent this property? If you're on a busy road, I can promise you, anyone with kids is going to say, I don't think I'm going to rent this place. And you just lost a huge pool of people that could potentially rent your property. All gone. So pay attention. This is why you have to have boots on the ground. You can't just rely on Google images or realtor images or somebody's word of mouth, the person who's selling you the house. You need to get on the ground, see this for yourself, and understand, are there any white elephants out there that would keep me from selling the property or renting it for full value, what I think the neighborhood, what the area should rent for. So pay attention to white elephants. So about 15 years ago, I kept hearing the name of this neighborhood, and people were talking all about this neighborhood and how this was going to be the next big thing. This neighborhood was going to take off like a rocket. And so if you could go in there and buy properties, you should. And let me tell you, you could buy properties because it was rough. It was a very rough area. And there was high crime. The schools were horrible. It was just a bad area. But everybody thought, oh, this thing's coming back. Look at what happened over here. 3 miles away. This area is booming. This is next. And they started buying in this area, and they bought, and they bought, and they bought. And I can tell you, I just watched. I never bought over there, and I never really wanted to. I was just over there the other day, and it's still, parts of it are still struggling. And so the big takeaway here, the lesson that I learned, now I did learn this lesson. I want you to learn it before you do something crazy. The lesson I want you to learn is never try to predict the market. And what I mean by that is the individual market. Don't ever think that this depressed market down here is all of a sudden going to shoot up in value, and you're going to invest in it. You're going to get in the right at the very beginning, and then boom, it's going to, you probably don't have any inside information. And it doesn't matter if the city annexed this commercial, or you heard plans for this incredible supermarket or shopping center, or whatever the case is. Don't get sucked into that. It's okay to wait until you see proof of development, until you see proof that things are coming back. And so the initial people that invested in this area 15 years ago, they're like the pioneers that headed out across America. They did not make it very far. They did not last. They are not there today. It's people that are buying today, actually, that didn't buy 15 years ago. They're actually doing pretty well in this area. And so never try to be the first one in a bad market, in a declining market, just because you think it's coming back. I think that's probably one of the worst things you can do. Those are 9 of the biggest lessons I learned over 21 years of a real estate career. And I want you to know those. I want you to learn those. I don't want you to make the same mistakes I made. And while I would say never be the first in a market, this last point that I just made, I do want to say there are some really good markets out there. And so if you want to see the top 5 real estate markets in the U.S. today, go ahead and click this video right here.